Just a warning, the numerous mistakes you're about to witness, although unintentional, may actually have a benefit to make you think you can do this too. All right, welcome back everybody. Today I'm going to be converting this Salvino Models kit into a slot car with the cheapest method I can possibly think of, and I'm going to share the files with you so you can do it also. I'm a tinker, I'm not a professional, so I approach these things in a way to try to get other people to give them a try. It's not as hard as you think. You're not going to get, super good results right away, but you can do this. So here we go. This is my friend Sam decided that we were going to do NASCAR. He wanted to do the boxy 80s NASCARs, and he purchased this model kit for me. It's pretty simple. It's a black and white paint scheme. Here's mine. I got a bubble in the roof. It really bugs me right here. But other than that, it's okay. The decals were a little tricky to get them to lay down on it. But so this is the body. I don't have the grill or anything like that in yet. But it's pretty much ready to go. I used a different type of clear coating technique. I bought some of this and I just brushed it on. And it is almost bulletproof. It is on there so thick. And so I don't think I'm going to get the body of this thing scratched up too easily. But yeah, it's good enough to race. I'm going to be showing you this stuff in CAD and then the 3D print. The 3D prints are all flat, no supports, pretty easy to print. It was designed that way. This is the back half of the chassis. This goes on top to hold the motor in place. When it's screwed together, it really stiffens the chassis up. Like so. And then you have a front section. And on the sides, you need two of these. They get glued on, that's how you adjust your wheelbase. I left some of the stuff in. When I 3D print, you get these little stringers, like in here. You just got to clean them all out with a little razor knife. So I'm going to clean this up. There's a lot of miscellaneous small parts that all the files are included in the Dropbox. These are the axle holders. You'll have the shorter ones are for the front and the back. You can have them with a large hole if you're going to use a brass bushing, or if you're just going to put the axle straight through there because you're fine with that. They're both there. This group in the middle has a bunch of different, well, there's two different sets for you, but you can flip it over. So you can change the position of your front tires height-wise depending on how your guide is setting in the track. So you can easily just switch the position of this, flip it over, and you can adjust, get some really fine variations on the front. That is these for no bushing and these for bushing. Okay, so here I've set aside the top plate. The side brackets are not attached yet. We've got our front axle holders just loosely setting in the pegs, and this is a pretty tight fit. Depending on your printer, you may have to trim some of this up. All right, shown in green, you have your front magnet holder and your rear magnet holder. You can push, this is a very tight press fit. You may have to file, but the idea is you're going to be able to smash these down into this groove until you get them to the right height for your track and how much magnet force you want. You notice the rear one has a notch in it, like this, and that is so that the crown gear doesn't clip it. The magnet will lay right down in there. They go inside the magnet holder. This is a very tight fit. You got to smash it to get it to go down in there. This is the front magnet holder. There's a very thin print on the bottom of that, just like one layer. So that is a front magnet holder. You're going to need a motor. These are 24,000 RPMs at 24 volts. But at 18 volts, they go 18,000 RPMs. They have about the same torque profile. They weigh about the same. I'm trying to build a car as close as I can get it to the Carrera cars. You can buy these little gears too. Just press that on. The motor nests right here. It's beveled down there. It sits exactly in there. And I'm going to show you the motor that this chassis was designed for, and a link to what to look for. You can buy them on eBay for, I think, $3.50 right now. I paid as little as $1.50, I think, or $1.80 in the past. The price varies. Here's an eBay listing I found just today. So this is current as of December 4th. One of these, which is your rear motor cradle. This is beveled. It sets in there. It'll be flush with the bottom once it's in place. and it puts it right back here where it needs to engage your axle. Your rear magnet actually goes in here like this. So this is going to press in here, and your magnet's going to go directly under the axle. Then you need a top motor cradle. And you can see these posts are where screws go. So you're going to use 6 screws to cradle that in place. Okay, here it comes over. This is beveled and sits down in there. So it'll go down and catch all this. And when it's tightened up, it locks, it cuts the flex out of the rear chassis. It cuts the flex out a lot. The 2 holes that are in the back that don't seem to go anywhere, that is for body mount. So you're going to glue this to the body. You may have to spacer it a little bit, but that's it. So this green thing is your rear body mount. It will glue underneath the trunk, but it'll be held to the chassis by screws, 2 screws. So you're going to glue this and leave it stuck underneath your trunk. For the Buick, I had to put about an 1/8 inch of shim on top of here. I just used some old plastic bases that I make and shimmed it up a little bit. But so that's pretty much the rear assembled minus the axle. Axles. This is 1/8 drill rod. It comes in 3-foot lengths. It's very cheap. You can get it and then just cut it off with a Dremel tool, Dremel tool cutoff wheel. So this is 1/8. You also need to buy a crown gear. I bought these off eBay. I'll share a link with you. They work pretty good. They're plastic. You can get brass. You can buy other ones. You can get different gear ratios, but you're going to need this. This is what I used for the build in this video. I'm not entirely happy with them because there's 2 holes for set screws, but they only come with 1 set screw. So, and they tend to get loose and slip and chip a gear, so I'm going to add set screws. Let me talk for a second about the hubs that I print out. These hubs are going to be in the drop box so you can print out what you want. The first is what I normally use. This was used on my camera truck that you're going to see in the video. It's a 2-part hub. This is the base part that goes on the axle, and the reason I did it this way is because you can see that it's a flat bottom. You can print it without any support or anything, but then when you press the axle through, you can press it till it stops. You don't have to worry about the axle going too far. Then it'll snap in there, and this will fit very nicely the tires that I'm going to show you that I got from AliExpress. Very cheap. They're good tires. They have a good grip, and they just sound nice going down the track. I think it's because they have tread on them. They just sound really nice. I've shared this before. They come in various scales. I'm using the 1/32 scale to replace my melting and splitting and deteriorating Carrera tires. I'm really frustrated. The 1/28 scales are good for small 1/25 scale model kit builds. However, I wanted to try the tire that came in the kit, so I made this hub for it. This is the Salvino hub. So when you're deciding what to print out, you're going to have the inner and outer hub for 124. I would recommend them. They're good. If you want to do the Salvino and you happen to have a kit like mine and you want to use the tires, you can print this hub out. There's a starter hole through the hubs, but you're going to drill these to 7/64 so it becomes a very tight press fit. You got to press this in here. I'll explain that in a little bit. You don't need these, but you can use bronze bushings if you like. The way that the stuff prints out, you don't need the bushings. You can just drill and put your axle through, but if you want to put bushings in, you can. So I'm going to use bushings. I found out that these bushings are not quite the right size, so I'm going to take this 1/8 inch drill bit and chase this out a little bit so that my axle slides freely. Rear axle, I put a notch in it so that the set screw from the gear can match in there with my grinder. This step took a little time. I had to run through this a couple times to make sure everything was smooth and worked good. So I test fit everything and had to run a drill from one side through the other to make sure everything was lined up for the axle because it was binding up in there. If there's any, misalignment, it will not spin your axle. After much trial and error, I finally got a 1/8 inch axle in there. I had to loosen up the plastic a little bit so that I could adjust. So there was a little bit of play in this. There wasn't enough play in the brass bushings. But it's not super loose, but I can spin it pretty freely. I think what I'll do is just leave it like that and begin the assembly process. So what I need to do is to create this subassembly and press the hubs on the end, like this. Pressing hubs on straight has been... You're going to want to print two of these out. This is my hub alignment tool. You can see there's a little bit of a groove down at this one end. That matches the hub for the AliExpress tires. It's got a groove running this way that'll hold a 1/8 inch axle, and there's a large gap in the middle that you can wrap it around the crown gear. You want two of these, and I'll show you how you clamp them together, but this will really help you get your tire, your hub and your axle perpendicular. The other thing that this does is the length of this is the exact spacing you need to match the chassis. So if you have this much of a gap, your hubs are pressed in at the correct space. Okay, I've got my alignment tool clamped together and my axle's in here. I'm going to put this on here and press it out in the garage. You can use a vise, you can use a hammer and tap on it. But the way I measured is you should be just poking through that side when it's done. Let me try to put this on the floor and tap on it. So I rested this against the floor, using this to keep it nice and square. Should be pretty straight. I came through a little bit too further than I wanted to on this side. Now I can take this apart and add all my little bits that I need to add to this thing. Need one of these. Just got to go in there, and I think we're going to put it in this side like this. Then we need this for the other side. And now we've got to press this into the other hub. And this one's going to be a little trickier because I can't use this the entire way. I can just use it to kind of get it started. Got a little bit of a cutout here, so I can take some of that on this side like this, but we're just going to be able to get it started for the most part. Okay. So you can see I got a little bit sticking out on this side, and I'm going to use that to start it. Make sure I get it centered. Put it on the floor, line it up nice and square, and then tap it in. And I'm going to use this punch on this side so that I'm tapping on the axle itself. So I've got all the parts for the rear axle subassembly put together. The distance that I need in here is the same as this. So if you look at the holes there, so you can use this as a guide for how much distance you need to sit your axles at. These are actually a little bit wider than I wanted them to. I probably could have got away with that shorter axle, I don't know. But these Salvino model tires that came with the kit, they're kind of soft, but they got a little bit of a ridge in there. So I just put this socket on the end of my drill and placed it on there. And then I just ran it against a sanding block. Set of scuffs. So it's time to assemble this. I'm going to start with this, drop the magnet in, and begin putting it together. Here's the top piece. This little rectangle with 4 tiny little tabs on it. You see those little pins sticking up? The top motor holder that holds the engine and the other things in place. You can see, let me see if I can get this turned so you can see. You see the whites poking through there? There's 4 holes in there, right there. This part is in with the small parts. They're all together. They'll print at the same time. So you just want to take this, put those pegs in those holes, and glue this down. Because I noticed when I was running some tests that the motor had enough torque to actually twist in there, and this little plate keeps it in. So now they've got the motor and the rear axle subassembly in there, and I'm going to attach the top, making sure the bevel goes over the motor. Okay, I'm back in the morning, and we've got the rear half assembled. The side braces have been glued in, and I've let the glue dry. They just slide in. There's a little channel there. So they're on there. I got the wire soldered on. The motor is clamped. between the bottom plate and the top plate. I've got my magnet adjusted so that it just is underneath the tires. You can see where, yeah, it's going to be really close to the rail, but it shouldn't scrape. And I put some glue in there to hold that in place. So that's all glued together. I've been using this glue. It's kind of, I get it at Hobby Lobby. So this is my rear half ready to go. You're going to need your front magnet holder, and that's right there. The magnet holder gets pressed in right there. And the last piece you need for your hardware is you got to buy one of these. That's a Carrera guide flag. Doesn't matter which one. We're going to tear it apart and just use some internal components of it. So any models. So this is the bottom for the front half, and we are going to fill this hole up with parts from this. So I'm still going to have my Carrera pivoting port right here. So I'm going to take this apart and put it in here. I've gotten pretty fast at disassembling these things. It doesn't take any time at all to take them apart. Just like that, and you're done. I just want to double check to make sure that sometimes this 3D printer leaves like little bits that can hang it up. So I think if I had better 3D printer settings, I wouldn't have to trim so much. Okay. We need to cut this across here, which I can do with these nippers. And the screws are going to line up with the holes that we 3D printed down there. We'll put some screws in there and hold it down. You can use the same screws that came on this. Let me see. Let's put the bottom one in first. Wrap around and over, just like that. We're down there. Next, this comes on, like this. And now, we get the screws that we took out. I'm going to use the longer ones. Should be able to start these and run them right through here. Okay. So we got our guide flag in the front, got our magnet back here. Once we put our tires in, we'll get the magnet adjusted, we'll glue it down. I didn't film this, but just like the rear, everything was test assembled and drilled before I pressed the hubs on for the front hub. We got our sub-assembly here, and we've got to put this on either this way. Now these tires are pretty tall, so I'm going to want to put them in with the hole up. Now if I'm using some smaller tires, I can put this in this way and put them down close to the bottom. And the axle should slide through here if it's up top. It's kind of tricky, but you'll sort it out. I got faith in you, because if you're this far along, you're seeing a method to the madness here. I got to put the top holder for the front axle, which is this. Okay, so that's this piece right here in green. I'm going to highlight it. It sits down and locks the wheel hubs down. It only has 2 screws in it. I didn't have enough room to put any more screws because they would interfere with the guide flag. So you got to tighten it down with just these 2 screws. Mine held pretty good. You're going to notice that those two tabs in the front, they go to the front because that's where the body mount kit goes to. So you smash this all together. We want to put 2 screws in here and hold this front piece together. The tire is going to cut real close. The guide should be deeply inserted in the slot. The tire's going to barely touch. I'm going to try it. Let's try it right there. This in here. I'll hit it with a hot glue gun. That way if I ever want to adjust it again, I can just easily pop the glue off. And we'll put our chip in the middle and we'll run some laps. There are a couple of small parts, like this one here. It's got a couple holes in it. That holes is for the screw. And here's that piece. Just goes right on there, and when they put the Carson chip in, you put the screw in there. This stuff is a tight fit. Yep, that's a smash down fit. But then your Carson screw, or your Carson chip screw goes right there. Then in the front, the Carson chip has hooks that go in here, and they have to be blocked by something, and that's where this comes in. So this will go down and glue onto these pegs on this. And all the small parts are under one STL file called small parts. Okay, I'm going to mount the front body mount part up here. That's this green piece right here. And you can flip it around and have it protrude to the back or to the front, depending on the body you're mounting it to. And in order to do that, I've got to start on the bottom, run my screwdriver through here, and catch a screw right here that goes onto the top. So this part here will get glued into the body, and if I ever need to remove the chassis, I can take these two screws out by reaching through the hole here with my screwdriver, like this, and reaching in there to get this Phillips that's up there. It's going to be tricky when it's on the car. Let's check the height. I think I can live with that. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this rear body mount. It's back here, just this little one right here. It's mounted on the back. It's easier to get to these screws. And I'm going to fix it to these two holes in the back here. So I'm just going to put a little shim on top here. So luckily I have an infinite number of spacers. I'm just going to glue this over top here. This is a DVA base. To use the Carson chip, you should probably buy this wiring harness from Pioneer. I'm currently out of them, so I got a workaround for this. But this has the chip, or the plug that goes into the chip, along with some capacitors and some noise dampening. I'm going to put this part from Pioneer in. It's going to fill in the Carson chip door and give a more secure place for me to put my Carrera digital chip. Lots of profanity in here. Well, that was pretty annoying. I had to shave this down some. So now I'm going to put this door in here so I can hook my... I don't know if the 3D printer is like just putting an extra layer around the edge, because it shouldn't be that difficult. So this door fits the older style chips, and I had a newer style chip, so I had to slightly modify it in order to get it to work. Just one more little tweak. Okay, so here we are. We are assembled. So now I just need to adjust the wheelbase. You can see that it sets on there pretty nicely. I keep going the wrong direction, sorry. It sets on there pretty nicely. Got a couple wrinkles in it. I want to run some laps with this and see how it does. I'm going to try to have my camera truck on the track at the same time. This uses the same chassis, has a Carson chip, but has the same motor, and it's essentially the same as the Buick chassis. I got the camera pointed down a little bit. You can see the hood of the camera truck at the bottom, but this is the view out the windshield for recording videos. This is just after assembly. Didn't do anything. I'm just testing it out as it goes. This track has a lot of elevation changes, and you can lift so that the guide flag that drops down is handy, and I didn't have it. So that's going to be a little tricky. I got to kind of pick my way through here. And right off the bat, you can see I come down the hill too fast, deslotted, and pounded into the bank. The camera truck did catch some scenes here and there of the car going past. I thought I was going faster than I was, but the lap times weren't really impressing me that much. But it had a lot of power, a lot of torque. The gear ratio on this thing just takes off. I think it's the right gear and motor setup for the track, but I either didn't have enough magnets or the Salvino tires weren't as grippy as I thought they were. Now, however, I can probably beat any Carrera car with old, dried up, rotted tires on, because we're running Paul Gage tires on our Carrera cars. And on my track, a good lap is like mid-8s. If you've got a mid-8-second lap on a car, you can do really good. The best I could do with this was high 11s. So, an average Carrera car is like mid-9s, something like that. So I think I got an 11.6 with this. I'm going to tune it some more. I'm going to maybe... I don't think I want to change the tires because I made the special hubs for them and everything, and they seem... I might sand them with some more fine sandpaper, but it's just a lot of fun for me to be able to build, my own cars, and Sam's going to build a few of these too. If we build them with the same basic chassis, and they'll run very comparable to each other, and they're going to be kind of brutes to handle. I didn't test it on a plastic track. I got to take it and run it on that. But it's actually pretty fun. I mean, it's comparable to some of the cars that I have. Like I have some old cars. You see, in my bumper got lost right there at the bottom of the track. I ripped over and slapped the wall pretty hard with it, and the rear bumper popped off. I got to glue that back on. That's one of the problems with model cars. They're a little bit more fragile, but I had a good time building it. I had a good time designing the chassis. If you want to download and try it out, it's up to you. I'm not, just I just want to share my hobby with people. That's kind of what all my videos are about. Like, this is what I do, and maybe you can enjoy it too. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's neat. It opens up a lot of different cars. This is the most cost-effective way that I've found to build custom cars, because once you buy a Carson chip, you just plug it in and out of each of your other cars. So after the first 10 laps, I parked and I looked at my screen and I was like, man, that lap time just isn't good enough. So I reset things and I gave it another try for a couple more laps because I was going to try to get some better time. And the car just takes off like a bullet. It just absolutely accelerates like a rocket. There's a couple things that I'm going to try to work on. Number one, you definitely need to get a second set screw because the crown gear got loose, and once it gets loose, it starts making a terrible racket, and you'll blow teeth off that plastic gear. And I think I'm missing one tooth already off this plastic gear. So I definitely want to find the thread pitch of the little set screws and put some more in there. Finally, I tried it without the camera truck and seeing what kind of lap times I could get, and without the distraction of it. This is just, and its tail, the tail wants to wag out on me a lot more than the normal cars we run. But I think I can get the hang of it. I did have an incident where it got light on the hills going up the hill, and it actually lifted out at the tower. I've had cars fly up in the air and hit that tower. That's always kind of an interesting area because you have to kind of adapt to different challenges, picking your way up and down the hills, and then of course you got your curves and everything like that. But the hills, I think, is something that trips me up because it's just so different. See right there, it lifted up and just went up over the guardrail and whacked into the tower just like that. So all right, so that's my car, that's my chassis. I'm going to put a Dropbox link in the description. I'm going to put all the STL files in there. Just play around with them, modify them, build it. If you do build a car, maybe leave me a comment and say this thing sucked, or it wasn't that bad. So all right, guys, have a good one out there and enjoy your hobbies. Thanks for watching.